Greetings dear readers, I am back with another video. As you know from my previous videos, my favorite music genre is metal. And sometimes when you listen to metal and read the lyrics, you eventually find out that some songs are inspired by a particular book or film or game and so on. And I thought there are so many great books that deserve to be turned into metal songs. Be it a fast song or a ballad, I'd like to say that there will be no Tolkien or the Stormlight Archive or a Song of Ice and Fire, because they have been done already. They're the most popular options. In this video, I'd like to offer my list of 10 books that, in my opinion, deserve to be turned into metal songs. And so, let's get started. The very first book that comes to my mind is Harry Potter. I don't think there's some explanation needed. It's Harry Potter and it deserves to be metal. One thing that heavy metal and Harry Potter have in common is that they both disagree with authorities. I've seen the next 3 books from my previous videos. All 3 of them are my all-time favorites, and the first one that comes to my mind is The Shining by Stephen King. Metal artists decide to write songs dedicated to Stephen King novels. They pick it or The Dark Tower. And I think that The Shining deserves to have a metal song. You could write the song up from Jack's perspective or Danny's perspective, or even Wendy's. 3 members of the Torrance family have something interesting in them that could make a good song. The second book from my favorites is Ender's Game. This book has a lot of battles, space stuff, and the character growth. You could write a song from Ender's point of view. I really don't understand that when it comes to turning sci-fi into metal, why Ender's Game is ignored. And that's very bad, because this is a very amazing book. And I'd love to hear a song about Ender's Game, if such exists. Third and final book from my all-time favorites that deserve to be metal is The Book Thief. Despite all the dark setting of this book is very uplifting and hopeful. One thing that I cut from one of my previous videos is the moment when I go through this book and read one of the main characters' past life. In the army, he met a Jewish guy that had one thing in common with him. They both loved music, and when I reread this book, I thought, if they lived in the 70s or 80s, they probably would form a metal band, these 2 characters. Next come books that aren't that obvious. I didn't find any metal songs inspired by these books, and if there are songs, they aren't metal. At least not the metal I'd enjoy. So the next one of my list is Chronicles of Narnia. If Lord of the Rings can be metal, so can Chronicles of Narnia. Why not? Because it's a good fantasy book. Next book on my list is a children's book it's quite dark, and metalheads would love this. It's Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I thought of picking The Graveyard Book as the inspiration, but decided to go with Coraline. It's very dark, a little bit scary, but the Laika film is scarier. This would make probably a dark, heavy song, one of the heaviest. The next book, on the contrary, would make a light metal song. This book you wouldn't expect to be metal, but I think it should be, and that's The Secret Garden. One of the reasons I picked this is because no one would expect this to be metal. Sometimes you got to shock everyone. Now, the most common theme in metal is government, bad, freedom, good. Metal has really loved complex books with their own political structures. And I thought that The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli would make a metal song. Okay, this isn't a fantasy book, but this one has very interesting chapters. It has very different things like betrayal, struggle for power, and how rulers make mistakes, and how everyone suffers, and so on. Sabaton did The Art of War, and I think The Prince would make even better. Well, let's go back to fantasy. Since metalheads really love fantasy with their own well thought out plots, darkness and gruesomeness and so on, I think that The First Law by Joe Abercrombie would be a great song. This is the first one, The Blade itself. I kept showing you the second one before they're hanged, but this time I decided to go the first one. This cover is really nice. Oh, and there's Joe over here, but I can't take this book closer to the camera because it would shine. If you love the Song of Ice and Fire, you'd love this one too. I can imagine how dark and gruesome lyrics to this book would be. And the last book on my list is one of the most underrated books in my library. In one of my previous videos, I said that Joyland by Stephen King was the most underrated book. However, this spot is tied with Fever Dream by George R. R. Martin. I also have the English version, but it's butchered and it's a shame to show it to you. Accidentally Pepsi was split over this book, and I also butchered it with various translations of words I didn't know. The Fever Dream is very light-hearted compared to A Song of Ice and Fire. There is no political intrigue in this one. This is mostly about the journey and the vampires, and metalheads also love dark and horror stuff. And therefore this would make a good metal song, probably about the journey on Fever Dream through the river. Thank you so much for watching. How do you think, which books would make a good heavy metal songs? Well, except for Lord of the Rings, The Song of Ice and Fire, The Stormlight Archive, and The Dark Tower, and so on, except these, because these are the most popular options. I'd also like to inform you that I also have Twitter now. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and also follow me on Instagram. Bye.